Are you asking about the registered one or unregistered one? We have two categories of groups.
Both lah.
Both we have close to about 8,000 so far.
So what is the difference? Like what sort of benefits if you're registered versus unregistered?
With Burmas.
Yeah.
They'll be getting legal advice from us without any charges. The first thing is. Second is we have helped them on the moratorium issues as well, filling up those bank forms and everything. And also we have been working on those people who have actually lost their loved one in Malaysia while they were in Singapore, for them to travel back in a safe way and following all those procedures. Because in Malaysia, we have a lot of procedures that they need to follow, and they are all unaware of those issues. So we are helping them on that also.
Okay.
You ready before?
Give me 1 minute.
So she was not ready earlier?
No, that's just
Oh, lama. Potong she started the interview. That is what I was thinking. That.
so we get you relaxed and how it will be.
நீங்களாச்சும் இன்ட்டு கொடுத்துருக்காங்க.
இங்க பேசுற ஸ்டாஃப் நான் ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ணுவோம் வேணாம்.
Do I need to go down some more? Is it okay?
It's okay.
It's okay.
I just already. You can take out.
Okay.
We got a bit to the right, the camera table. Yes, can.
Okay.
Boleh?
You ready, Mom?
Okay.
Mau, ready ya, Mau?
No.
Okay.
Rolling.
Okay, Ms. Diana, maybe we can start with, how many Malaysians have reached out to Burma, and what sort of issues do they bring to you guys to have, any help with?
So far we have close to about 8,000 of them registered officially, and we have a lot of them who are not able to register because they are still stuck in Singapore. But actually close to about 50,000 people who is trying to contact us, but because of lack of manpower with me, so we are unable to reach them.
So what sort of issues do they need help with?
Basically, if you look at it's direct to just one point, that if the borders are open, it will be much better for them, because they are going through quite a lot of issues down here in Malaysia.
What sort of issues would you maybe explain to us?
Of course, the first one will be financial issues, because most of them who have been working, they own their own houses in Johor Bahru. They are driving good cars. They have commitments like paying insurance and so many other things. Their entire family is here, and the most important thing is they are not basically from Johor. With the what you call with the average that we have with us, the graph that we had with us, most of the Singapore working people are 50% are all from Perak State in Malaysia. So their ICs are not even registered yet in Johor yet, So now currently the problem that they are facing is basically financial. They can't really pay their housing loans and so on.
On the issue of moratoriums,
Yes.
for example,
Yes.
there's been any news about any extensions beyond the original proposals? Maybe can you give us a sense of just how dire it is for people with the financial issues that you were talking about, and why there is sort of this need for a moratorium extension? Because a lot of people, including top politicians, are also calling for it.
Yes, okay. First of all, we do need to understand, it wasn't only the banks who actually gave them loans for their houses and cars and so on. It was also a lot of credit companies in Malaysia that has offered, and all these offers that have been made, even by the bank and also by these credit companies, were based on their Singapore payslip. So they were all given houses which was value of $500,000 ringgit, and their paying back is like per month is like 2,000 ringgit plus. Okay, most of them, the moratorium which has been given by the Malaysian government was actually only for banks. So those people who have taken loans from credit companies, we have a lot of credit companies which has given car loans for them. They actually didn't follow the 6 months moratorium which was given beginning from March. And I think beginning from March, and it ended up on September. But the Malaysian government has taken an initiative step which actually is not really helping them by saying those people who has lost their job, they can go for an extension for another 3 months up to December. But the problem here, if we look, those people who are in Malaysia, basically they are jobless. Even though their permit, their working permit is still active, but they have been given a no-pay salary by the Singapore companies. So basically, they don't earn an income. And at this point, the banks and the credit companies over here, they need a black and white from the Singapore company saying that they have lost their job. But most of the companies in Singapore, they can't give those letters because their work permit is still active. So with this, they have got no, they are not earning, there's no income for them. And at the same time, they are not able to pay their loans because they are not being retrenched by the company. So this is a big issue. Even though if they have a job in Singapore itself, those people who are in Singapore, let's talk about them. Okay, what is happening is previously they used to stay in Johor Bahru. They commute every day from Johor Bahru into Singapore. So their cost of living was very, very low because they were all living in Johor Bahru. But today what is happening, because of the borders are closed in Singapore, there are no more overtime like last time. There's no extra allowance being given. So they are all living on their basic salary, which is quite tough for them to send money to their families here in Johor Bahru. It is still, because they are having a job in Singapore, so they can't extend their moratorium here. They are having a job. At the same time, they are not able to send money over here to pay their housing loans and their car loans and insurance and so many other things.
But this issue of borders, it doesn't seem that the borders will open anytime soon. I mean, with the MCO continuing until December, and also with the rise in the number of cases in Malaysia, what can be done in the meantime? Because this is not something that we can solve, at least in the coming months or so.
Yes, we do understand. We do understand. I mean, the seriousness of this COVID, pandemic. But the point here is Malaysia's. Yes, I do agree that Malaysia's number has increased. But we have to look in detail. Those numbers are increased in Sabah and only in Kedah. Okay, and in Kedah, it's actually increasing inside a jail. Actually, it's a compounded jail. If you look at Johor itself, we had day before yesterday we had only 1 case, and yesterday we had about 5 cases. And Malacca, our neighboring country, neighboring state, only had 1 case, and Negeri Sembilan also had 1 case, and Kuala Lumpur only had 5 cases, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that shouldn't be a reason from stopping the borders to be open, because the borders, the neighboring borders, especially Johor and Singapore, we are still in a safe zone. So that shouldn't be a reason given so that the borders can't be open as soon as possible.
So what do you think the state government can do in this sort of situation?
You mean the Johor state government?
Yeah.
Okay, to be very frank, July we did go to the state government. We wanted to go and give a memorandum to the chief minister over here, but he was busy, so he couldn't accept the memorandum. But one of his people came and accept. And following by that, after about 2 weeks from that, we went in a larger amount, which was close to about 700 people, 700 to 1,000 people attended. We gave a second memorandum, and if you look at inside the memorandum, we were stating that we need, those people who were affected by this job issue, which they can't go, they can't cross the border. should be given, temporary business license, or they should be given temporary job opportunities. But the problem that these people are facing right now in Johor is most of the companies in Malaysia, they are not willing to take those people who have been working in Singapore for the reason that they are afraid that if the borders are open, they might go back to Singapore for a job. So there is a very big issue over there, and also, of course, at the salary amount which is given by Malaysia, it is too low for them to accept jobs in Malaysia, for them to continue paying whatever that they are paying.
And also, I guess Permas, as you mentioned earlier, they
Yes.
also help to sort of do the logistics for people who have lost their loved ones
Yes.
to cross the border and
Yes.
help. Maybe you explain a little bit more about that side of what Permas does.
Okay, in the beginning, before the PCA was introduced, we had a lot of problem, bringing their loved ones who have lost their family members, reaching them to their funerals and so on. But now, after the PCA has been introduced, I think it seems to be easier if people who are coming out under the PCA, because they only have a house quarantine here in Malaysia for about 1 to 2 days until they receive their test of whatever swab test that they are having. When they receive their results, if it's negative, then they are allowed to go to their house without any conditions being given, that they have to stay in house or what. But the only problem that we are facing now is if they have used the PCA system, the next that they can use back the system is going to be after 90 days. Because the system will not allow you to use the system again before the 90 days. So if I'm going out to see my family, then after a month, if there's any loved one that I've lost, if I want to go for their funeral, I have to be quarantined in Johor Bahru for 14 days. And this is also a big problem. Actually, I need to talk about this, about the PRs especially. Those PR who are affected, until today, there's no any solutions for this PR. For instance, today while we are talking right now, I have a PR who is stuck in Singapore, who needs to attend for his mother's funeral. But what happens here, you see, when he comes out to Johor Bahru, he will be definitely sent to a quarantine center for 14 days. Then he will be allowed to attend his mother's funeral for about 4 to 5 hours. And he will be sent into the quarantine center back. But we have to understand something. Does he want to enter into Malaysia after that? No. He wants to return back to Singapore. So at this time, why does the Malaysian government wants to quarantine someone in Malaysia, but he wants to go into Singapore? After quarantine of 14 days being done in Malaysia, the next day when he enters inside Singapore, there is another 7 days quarantine that he has to go through. So if we look at a cost that he has to go through, and the amount of days that he's going to be on unpaid leave, it doesn't really make sense, just because he needs to attend for his mother's funeral. And until today, we have brought up this PR issue quite a number of times, but looks like the Malaysian government is really not listening whatever that we are saying, So we are having a big issue on this PR. And if you look at PR, it is not in a small amount of 10 to 100 people. We have thousands of Malaysians who are in Singapore under the status of PR. And why can't they be included into the PCA system? Okay, that is a big question mark, because these PR, they are also workers in Singapore as same as the other work permit holders. The only difference is they have a status of PR. So why is the Malaysian government doing such a thing to all these PR? We don't understand why. They are not even listening. They are not even taking up any measures to really help them and so on.
At the press conference, you were saying that there are certain conditions and demands that Burma has. and failing which there would be a plan to sort of stage a peaceful protest on the 18th of October, which is just in another week's time or so. Is that protest still going on as planned?
We are not actually focusing on the protest. To be very frank, it's actually a pressure that we are going to give the government. Okay, it is just a pressure, but keeping in mind about this COVID also. I mean, we have to even look into it. We don't want it to spread by everyone going for a protest. We are also looking at that aspect. But that is not our intention. Putting a protest to just show off is not our intention. Our intention is we want to make a clear note, okay, to the government that what we are facing over here is something unfair. The state government, the Johor state government, and also the federal government till today has not come out with any statement which is favoring those people who have lost their job and those people who are supposed to go into Singapore, and also to those people who are stuck inside Singapore itself. There's no statement. Even we have met the HR minister regarding about those people who have lost their jobs in Malaysia, in Johor Bahru. He in fact promised that he's going to do something, but till now there's nothing. So having a peaceful rally, actually that is not something that we are looking into. What we are looking into is we want to put a pressure to the government. That there's hundreds of thousands of people are suffering from this, and the big issue over here. If the border is lifted, we are not asking for a full border, to be reopened. Now they have PCA and RGL. Okay, PCA is 90 days. They should come. Reduce the PCA to at least 30 days, so that at least those people, they can come back. Lately we had, very sorry to say, we had a Chinese guy who hanged himself. Okay, and there's rumors saying that he was hanged because he was stressed. He was working in Singapore, and God knows what stress he was going through. So we don't want those people, who are in stress, to go end up doing all this kind of stuff here. And if Malaysian government is not looking into this issue seriously, even the crime rates are going to be increasing in Johor Bahru very soon. We have shopping complex which is closing down, because the buying power in our shopping complex was those people who were working in Singapore. They spend their 95% salary in Johor Bahru, and of course not missing out those Singaporean itself. Every weekend they come here and they buy. Now those shopping complex, they are all shutting down already. They are all going into bankruptcies. So this is actually a big alarm for the Johor state. They have to step in and they have to do something instead of just concentrating only on their political part, whatever that is happening right now.
So what sort of suggestions, besides reducing to 30 days for the PCA, what are the, and also maybe looking at the COVID numbers by the state itself as a whole, what some other suggestions does Burma have to help the Malaysian workers deal with this?
Okay, first of all, we have two groups of people over here. Okay, one, people who have lost their jobs. Three groups. Okay, one for those people who have lost their jobs. Okay, the second is for those people who their jobs are still there. Their working permits are all active, but their company are just putting them on hold. And the other third category is for those people who are stuck in Singapore. Okay, the first one for those people who have lost their job. They are still thinking if the borders are open, there's a chance for them to go inside and ask for a job. Okay, and these people, they have got no choice rather than working in Singapore, because their commitment is very, very high. In Johor Bahru, they have a commitment where they really need at least 6,000 ringgit, to survive here by paying their housing loan, car loans, insurance, and so on. But in Malaysia, we do not have such a high amount of salary being given by any companies here. And furthermore, there's no jobs available here. There's no qualified jobs for all these people here. And for those people who their work permit are still active, these people, we really pity them, because they are still hoping every day that there will be some day that the companies are going to call them inside back. So, they are unsecured, they do not know whether should they really find for a full-time job in Malaysia. migrate to Kuala Lumpur or to other places where they can secure themselves, or should they be, holding over here because their work permit has not been revoked by the companies? And for certain companies who are still paying few staff, if I'm not mistaken, $200 Sing dollars to just keep them, waiting. I think this is unfair, which is happening. It is not going to help them in any way. They have been we have a lot of people who have been waiting for close to about 7-8 months, and suddenly they receive an email from those companies saying that you have been terminated. Your working visas has been terminated. That is a very shocking news for them. I think Singapore companies should actually step forward to be brave enough to come and say, okay, we are no more going to take anyone from Singapore until the border is fully open. Those kind of things where I think there are workers over here. They can go for a different option.
So what sort of proposals would you then suggest to the Johor state government or even the federal government, given all these considerations?
Okay, first of all, more business opportunities should be given to them. Of course, the moratorium should be extended because that is the only way which is going to keep them going. Means we are going to look into a lot of bankruptcies in future. And these bankruptcies, when they are declared bankrupt, then it's going to be a big problem for them to go into Singapore again. So instead of letting that to happen, the federal governments should actually step in and look at this Singapore Johor Bahru issue more in detail. I think they are not like those other Malaysians who have been affected by this pandemic. These people, according to the ministers, they are saying 400,000 people have been affected. So I'm not sure from where this figure they got. What they are saying, 400,000 people has been affected, and there's 250,000 people who used to commute every day before. So what is going to happen to these people is up to the federal government on whatever policies that they can bring. There's so many issues that they can help. For instance, we have close to about 2,000 drivers who used to drive buses and lorries before in Singapore. Until today, we have brought up this issue for them to convert their license into Malaysian license. Now, these people, they can't even they can't even drive Grab in Malaysia because their license are still under their GDL. Okay, we call it their GDL. Their GDL heavy truck license is still under Singapore. So if they want to terminate those licenses, they need to get a letter from the Singapore government for them to terminate those licenses. But how are they going to get this letter without going into Singapore? So they are jobless. Their only skills are driving trucks, driving buses and trucks. Even for these 2,000 people, also the government is not responding. So what about, we are talking about hundreds of thousands. This government, to be very frank with you, we are actually a bit angry on this government for not looking into this issue seriously.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Darren.
You are welcome.
Also, right, would you happen to have profiles of people who you could interview, maybe those who are affected by the moratorium, or even maybe like the bus drivers you were saying who now don't have that license? If you know anybody who would be willing to speak to us on camera.
Yes, I can arrange for you, but you have to give me a date.